Welcome to Leadapreneur.
Selamat datang, everybody, and welcome to the Leadapreneur Podcast, the space where sharp minds meet fresh ideas and we unpack the future of work with the people who are shaping it. Today, we're talking to a man who knows HR like Malaysians know nasi lemak. Rich, layered, and occasionally spicy, YK Lai isn't just an HR expert. He's a trainer, a managing director, a policy whisperer, and yes, even a published author who's dared to crack the code on the Employment Act. But don't be fooled by the job title. Beneath the corporate exterior is a mind that questions the status quo and a heart that cares deeply about people, purpose, and progress.
That's right.
YK, welcome to the show. Let's stir the pot, spice up the system, and talk about what it really takes to lead and be successful in Malaysia today.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan, for your invitation. I'm very happy to be here. Love to share my thoughts with you in your podcast today.
Yeah, well, we are building about a connection that we have around caring about people.
Yeah.
And you've got to really care. And I think this is sometimes, there's so many things that we can say, but at the end of the day, if you don't care, what can you do?
Exactly.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that as you kick that off with us?
Well, I always believe in developing people, new talents, because these are what we call the essential lifeline for a company to grow. Personally, I do have the heart to develop someone or to mentor someone in order with an idea that one day he or she is able to succeed me, right? In place of my position, in leadership, or even in management.
And how do you motivate yourself to do that? Because isn't that a bit tiring after a while? How do you find the energy for it?
Yeah, I mean, investing in a person takes a lot of efforts, not to mention commitment, right? So first of all, you need to have the heart for people. So if you do not have that element in you, developing a person or even a pupil, right, would not comes easily for you. Right? You won't want to think of spending even 15 minutes with that person just to, discuss matters relating to work. So obviously being a line manager, a leader, or even an employer in a company, you need to have the heart for people, right? So if you're able to do so, then your mentorship, your leadership will mean something to your fellow employees.
You may use that word investment there.
Exactly.
Which is a really powerful word, right? Because it's something which you would hope to grow, right? And you're investing your time, money, and effort into this person.
Yeah.
You want to see them grow. So there has to be an element here of actually celebrating someone's flourishing as a human.
That's right.
Versus, they tick the box, they now know how to do design thinking. Right. But actually seeing more than that, right? Is that something that excites you, that the way that person grows?
Definitely. I think when you see someone progresses from, phase 1 to phase 2, that brings joy to a person. Okay. So I think you have to speak from a genuine heart when you see that person succeed, right, in what they do, and they can move on from point A to point B. It means that you have done a good job as a leader, right? As a manager, you're able to grow that person to a next level where they are able to be even more productive for you and also for the company, right? So it's a win-win situation. Rather than you choose not to develop the person, you expect them to just do the status quo on a daily basis, and you expect great result from them. So I think that is not possible, because that's where the word investment comes in. You need to invest your time. You need to invest your knowledge. You need to download your knowledge and share your knowledge to the next person in line. And that's how you actually grow your organization to the next level. Otherwise, being a business owner or even an entrepreneur, you will often be referred to as a solopreneur. You have employees, but you're moving alone. And that can be very, very tiring at times.
Yes.
I
think there's also an element here of seeing that person is maybe potentially a threat What if they grow to be better than you and take your job? I mean, that's a common fear.
Yeah.
Whether it's real or not, I don't know, right? But there's that.
Well, that kind of mindset, I don't deny that it does exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on the person itself, how big of a heart you have. Right? So if you're able to share their success, you're able to celebrate their success, and you're able to work together, although initially, you see him from the bottom and he rise up, maybe because you have spent many hours of training him, coaching, teaching, and eventually he, pull his weight and he brings himself up to the level or even not higher than you. I think you should be proud instead of being jealous, instead of being threatened. Because, literally speaking, we are humans. We have these kind of feelings in us.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, right. So we are humans. So it's how of a bigger heart that you have to see that person succeed genuinely. Yeah. In good faith that you want him to be better than you. So leadership is someone who is able to see that and overcome that kind of thoughts and feelings, right? With a genuine heart, wanting to see that person succeed even better than himself.
Yeah.
Now, that is what I call a great leader.
Beautifully said, right? Because there's that element of character. Because you have to choose your response. Right? There's always maybe going to be a little bit of jealousy, envy.
Of course.
There's always scratching around the edges,
That's
right? But you can have a choice about how you allow the feelings to evolve. Not the beginning, but they evolve, right? And you can, I guess there's maybe an element here of a parent being proud of their child as it outgrows them.
Precisely.
I'm not usually a big fan of pretending of saying that family's like business. It's not. But there's an element here of having something there where you are seeing someone grow and maybe their destiny is to go beyond you and to be happy for that and to choose that as a place of character rather than a sort of an ego-minded approach, which is, what about me?
Yes.
What about me? What, are they going to get away from me? They're not going to be under my control.
Exactly.
Right?
I think one have to move away from being a self-centered person than what we call inclusivity person, right? So if you're able to include everyone in your team, in your game plan, right, where everyone has a role to play and everyone can be developed in their own individual unique ways based on their character, strengths, attitude, then yes, your team can go far, right? I always love the football analogy, right? And I used to adore the greatest football manager of all time, which is Sir Alex Ferguson. He has his own unique management style, but he loves to develop young talented players, right? So the likes of previously David Beckham, Paul Scholes, the Neville brothers, they came from the what they call that, the players, the young academy players, and they were developed until they became superstars level, right? And they played many games together, won many games together, and even won the tribal championship. So the character of a manager to develop new talents or young team, it has to be strong because, you start them from young and it takes years to develop. So being a position of a manager or even on a leadership stage, you must have that kind of element in order to weather all these, the initial root characters of wanting to become better. They probably would have their egos that needs to be checked, their raw talents to be groomed further, exercise regime that has to be implemented in order to become a better players. So it takes a lot of effort, right? Not to mention time.
Yes.
All right. So if you have all this structure in place and they follows, and in return they respect you for that because you bring result back to the team by winning games,
right.
That is something that all of us collectively as a company or as a team can be proud of.
So it's kind of building that strength of we.
That's right.
right? Because there has to be an element of caring about that, right? What about people who might say, well, that's easy for football players, but there's so much churn in my business. I've heard some companies have 25% churn a year, maybe more.
Yeah.
So how do you think that this could be useful for someone facing a lot of churn?
All right. So the churn rate, right, is very subjective from one company to company. And particularly if we look at how the style of the leadership or the management, the culture of it, right, the culture of the company, and how, most importantly, the people are being treated. So
Yes.
your employees are not dumb in a sense that they would not be able to detect how a person is being treated. They can see with their own eyes and hear with their own ears, right? So we must learn to be what we call a good human. Yes, I do agree that we need to look at productivity. We need to look at result, but there's always a balance. Okay? So if you're on the extreme side of results, sure, I believe your company would probably be one of the top 10s of, a company that bring high revenue and all that. But you have a very high turnaround time, what they call that, churn rate. People is leaving. Every year, you have 30% people that is leaving your organization or more. You are not able to retain good talent in your company. So you have to source out to buy more expensive talents to come in, right? So what if you are able to save that kind of money and you have already identified a good pool of people within your own organization and you start to develop them? And you probably would reap the reward 3 to 5 years time or even shorter if your development system is good, all right? So treating people good and at the same time maintaining the discipline for productivity, it has to have a balance.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's also the mature way to see it, right? It will move between different priorities. Like two of my colleagues, they are mothers. They have newborn babies who don't respect a 9 to 5.
Exactly.
And I think it's really the right thing to do to enable them to support how they use their time. If they have to go to the kid at the hospital this morning, as one of them did, then that's what she's got to do.
Yeah.
And I think that as a mature professional, you can then organize your time to make up for it in some sense. But there's always this sense of, I think that sense of you owe the company something is in a sense foundational for why you're in the company.
Yes, essentially,
But if you're only operating at the transactional level, I'm here because they pay me and that's it. You're only having a certain amount of presence, right? And you're not bringing your full self. I think that's also the sort of important part of the language behind the heart is when you're present with your heart and you're really feeling and expressing yourself, you're also fully present in your state of consciousness.
Exactly.
And so your creativity is going to go up, your ability to identify problems and respond to them, your agility goes up. You're much more connected with your colleagues. I mean, there's a long list of things that goes well there.
Positive things, that's right. So I lead 2 companies, right, in my current organization with 20 people. And 90% of them are ladies.
90%.
Yeah. So I work well with them and they work well with me simply because one thing, they understand our expectation as the management.
Yes.
While the management understands their predicaments. All right. So some of them are young mothers, right? So they have responsibility to the family. So they understood their role very well in the company to deliver what they're supposed to do or deliver. But at times when one of the family members, maybe perhaps the child is sick and is being hospitalized, we as management, we understand that they need to take time off or leave.
Yes.
And we allow that because we know that is a genuine situation, family situation. And we also understand that even though they go off for a couple of days, the productivity is still there. Yeah. And that's where we form what we call a mutual respect. Management had a mutual respect with the employees, fellow employees have mutual respect to the management. That is very important because without that in between to mediate between the management and the employees, you will not be able to run your organization well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or it ends up being this sort of command and control.
Exactly.
Where you have to rely on that very limited form, right?
That's right.
So does this I'm kind of stepping back and looking at your story, and I'm wondering, how did you end up here? What's your story from your childhood to where you are today?
Wow. From my childhood, huh?
I mean, what are the factors that led you to be the man today?
Well, when I was sort of like in transition between about to graduate and about to enter into workforce, right? I came across this book, right? So it's written by Robert T. Kiyosaki. So I believe a lot of them out there probably know the title of this book. It's called The Rich Dad Poor Dad. So this book actually changed my life in the sense that it changed my perception of to come under being a workman or to be a business owner. Okay. So obviously, after I graduate, I do not have what we call the startup money. I have to work first, right? So when I work, I always have this thought that, I will work only for temporarily because one day I will be able to run my own organization. I will be able to run my business. So I look at my earlier days as what we call the learning curve, right? So I learn to see how my management behave, my management reacts, my management runs his entire organization. So I took the opportunity, I take the extra effort and initiative to be part of the management, right? So I worked my way up. So I was one of the youngest manager back then to be able to climb up to the manager post within less than a year.
This is quite amazing because you're not there for the long haul.
Exactly.
But you're still doing so well.
Yeah.
That seems a bit, because some people might say, oh, but how can you be doing that?
Because I believe in giving my all.
Right.
Right. So
even if it's only short.
Even if it is short.
Temporary.
Yeah. So, you only live once. So why not do your best? Do your best, leave a good legacy behind so that people remember you for what you have contributed, your positive contributions rather than the negative ones. So that's always my belief. If I were to leave this place one day, I want my bosses to understand that, hey, he has done a good job for us. He has brought in good values to the company, and we will remember him as I can remember. As long as I can remember. So that's always been in my philosophy wherever that I go. So I give my 200%, right? So that's where also I expect my people now that I have people working under me to do the same.
Yes.
Yeah. So a leader is very different from a boss, right? So boss probably would do most of the command, but a leader leads. So in my organization, I practice a lot of leadership, right? So when a team is down, I do not expect them to just find solution of their own only. I have to come in and I have to show certain guidance, certain advice, or perhaps even lead the way in order to get out of a certain crisis. So I always believe in applying leadership in my management. That way, your people will see that you are always in front of them. And whatever that happens, you're always on the front line. And they will back you up from the back.
You're in the front line with your troops.
That's right.
You're
That's
there,
right.
present.
That's right.
I think there's a lot of confusion, right, about people can talk about being a boss. And that's sort of this expectation of someone who sits at the top and tells everyone else what to do.
Yeah.
And that's, it has its uses, but it has a limitation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you're advocating for this more powerful idea of a leader inspiring and transforming people.
That's right.
Through a different focus, which is on speaking to the person versus then talking about the process.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. And personally, I do believe in being hands-on. Right? So if there's anything happen, we can actually see from the top view.
Yes, right.
Right. So because you are very hands-on, you are able to go down to the ground and you resolve it together with your team. So ultimately, when the thing's solved, there's a lot of good benefits that come out of it. You save time, you save costs. you get the matters move forward, right? You don't drag it, because the longer that you drag, it's going to cost money. Yes. So being a leader, it's also advisable that that leader himself is a hands-on person himself.
I think that's super important, right? It gets overlooked that we can be in the ivory tower for whatever reasons we want to justify, but if you're not down on the battlefield with the troops and you have a sense of what's going on, and even that ability to command respect, right? Because again, I think often where strategy breaks down in the organization is people just don't believe in it.
Exactly.
Right? It comes through, but they don't respond to it because their frontline reality is something else, and they have to focus on that. Great bit of disconnect there. Wow. And so that kind of inspired you from graduating from university to kind of be this learning engine, I guess.
Learning engine, that's right.
Yeah, who's absorbing everything that he can. And then did you go and set up your own company then, or what was the next leap?
I've continued to work for at least 10 years or so in my working years. Then only I've decided to set up my first company.
Yeah.
So my first company, when I set up, I was the sole entrepreneur. I mean, everything has a risk, right? Even hiring the first employee is also a risk to the company.
Yeah.
So everything boils down to dollar and cents, right? But we have to take the first step. And when I brought in the first employee to the company, I've already had plans on the structure of how to retrain him or her in order to be the next me, right? So that I can replicate myself and I'm able to bring in the next person after that. So fast forward to 10 years now, our team of 1 or 2 now grows to a team of 20. And yeah, thank you. And we have branch office at Penang as well. So I'm happy because, you know, when we first started off, our revenue per year is about less than 50,000 ringgit, right? And then subsequently, when we have employees coming in, we're able to grow the revenue from 50,000 to 80,000 to 100,000, and slowly we build up to a couple of millions as of now. So it takes a lot of effort. The journey is not easy, but it, like I said, it's full of commitment. It's full of investing your time, of course, money as well, in order to get where we are today.
And how many of that team of 20 have stayed with you for? Are they generally longer term?
Yes. I think 80% stayed with me till today.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love getting interns to join me at their internship stage.
Yes.
Right? Because that's where I'm able to see their true character.
Yes. Yeah.
And because of that, I'm able to absorb them as our full-time employee once they finish their internship program. Right. So there are a couple of employees that have actually graduated from the internship and now they are with me till today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what do you think they would say why they stay?
Yeah, I did ask them why and why you do not want to move on to another organization and all that. And pretty much the answer that's given to me is they are very comfortable with the management. They like our management style. They like the growth rate. You know, they like how they can learn and be part of the entire organization as a whole. Yeah, because whether I like it or not, I love to involve everyone. If I can, whenever we conduct a project, right? Yeah. But obviously, I do have departments by itself, so it goes by departments after departments.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite an amazing thing to kind of discover, like having that long-term people stay with you for so long. So long. Yeah. That's really quite unique. You know, I think most organizations today would be happy to have someone for 5 years.
Definitely.
Right, or even 3. And what do you think you're doing that maybe, you know, a listener could take away from as something as I think sometimes it's about paying attention to a distinct difference. It's not doing 100 things. It's figuring out 1 or 2 things that are really important and doing them really, really well.
Yeah.
What do you think someone could take away from your track record in terms of retaining talent and people you want to keep?
Sure.
What do you think you've done distinctly differently?
I think one must have a plan on how to transform or develop the person to the next stage. That's the reason why people would stay, because They stay because they know that you're willing to invest in them, right? So that's the reason why they will stay for 5 years, 10 years with the company,
Right.
because there is a career path, right, for them. They are able to grow their income. They are able to grow their status. So I probably would share one good testimony about one of my staff. This is my one old timer. She joined me after she delivered her first child. All right, and she came to us. All right, pretty much education level it's very basic. She even speak a very simple English. All right, just to what we call pass by the gatekeeper,
Yes, sure.
whenever they call and all that, right? So we invested in her, right? So fast forward to 10 years, she's with us now, right? She is one of our top performer. Each month she closes about 100,000 to 150,000 on sales, right? She has 2 kids now. She managed to buy a house and change a new car. And so this is a second car. So when I see her progress from day one, right, up until today, I am very proud of her. She has achieved so many things through us, through our company, and through our development with her. And she's earning a very decent income at this point of time. So that is one success story that I can share with with your audience as well. Yeah.
And why did you decide to keep going? Like, what did you see in her that made you believe in her?
She just needed an opportunity. Yeah, back then.
Right.
She needed a career. She needed the chance.
Okay.
So we give her, and we are willing to invest in her. And
As she took the chance, you took the chance.
Exactly.
You took the chance
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Right.
So as much as it's bring rewards to her, it's also rewarding for us because she's one of our great contributor to our revenue as of today.
Wow. What a great story. Okay.
Yeah.
Living it in the flesh. I wanted to ask you a bit more about, we shift to think a bit more about the future.
Sure.
Like, well, the near and present future. Got so much happening with technology and HR. I think one of the challenges in this sort of space is that HR, L&D, T&M are often a bit not up to date on the latest technology trends, right? And technology moves so quickly. And then they're also stuck with this battle of legacy technologies they have to deal with. So what do you kind of see if we just put the sort of people and the technology space together? What do you see happening here in Malaysia and KL that you think is interesting or noteworthy?
This sort of things is inevitable. It's bound to happen very time, or if it's not, it's already happening now, right? So I would say to embrace it. Yeah. So even my current team, I've told them to embrace technology, even AI. So from the adoption of ChatGPT into their daily work, now it brings about high productivity because ChatGPT helps in their day-to-day work.
Yes.
All right. So it helps us in our day-to-day caption for social media marketing. It helps us in drafting an email to the client. Of course, they have to give what we call the proper prompts to the AI in order to generate the result that we want. So all this were self-initiative by their own self because they saw the importance of embracing such technology to their work, right, in today's work. So being an employer, you would have to manage different types of generation of employees in your workplace. So you will have now the current Gen Z, of course you have the old baby boomers, right? So there is what we call the generation gaps from this generation of baby boomers to the current Gen Z, right? So how do you bring, again, the balance to all these multiple across generations, right? You have to have a different approach because management, you cannot do what we call a one-size-fits-all kind of management. You somehow have to have some sort of a customization, okay? So Gen Z, they are very techy. All right. You give them tools, they will just learn it by themselves and they will apply it straight away. And baby boomers, they need structure, right? You place them some structure and they will try to follow and they will try to apply it. But it takes time, but can be done. Yeah. So you see the difference between these two generations of how you manage them.
Yes.
It's very different. So like I said, management style, based on my experience, you cannot do what we call a one size that fits all. It requires customization.
So when you want people to embrace technology more, especially perhaps in the HR team, right? You're suggesting to pay attention to the generational differences.
Yep.
Because I guess that I think you're saying everyone should have the technology. You're saying embrace it, right?
Yeah.
So let's get on with it. So that's the first, key point. But the way in which you do that is being sensitive to people's individual needs, right? And that can often be generational, right?
Correct.
So someone who's Gen Z probably wants maybe more hands-off approach, whereas someone with who's a baby boomer, just wondering how my parents would feel calling them old. They'd be upset. But
Yes. I mean,
but it's different, right? The world has changed.
Exactly.
2025 is not 2000.
And to tell you, Ian, I have the youngest employee in my organization, and I have the oldest. By oldest means she is 60 plus, right, after retirement, and she rejoined the workforce, and we brought her into our organization. And we value her is because she has years of experience in her, and she is humble enough to accept a management who is younger than her.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And there is what we call a sense of collaboration or cooperation, right? That we are able to work together as a team. And that's very important because there is a mechanism or dynamism, I would say, that enables us to do so. So I think one of the dynamic ingredient that has been poured in is both sides, the management and even the senior employee, were very humble.
Okay.
Right? So we don't show that, hey, I'm the boss. Whatever that I say, you listen. While she, as an employee, she understands that, but she did not exert that I'm a senior person, I'm a senior employee. Right? So when there is humility in management and the fellow employees sees that and they follow suit, there's actually good harmony in the company. And that's very important in today's context because if you read, right, in papers today or even in social media or even on TikTok, a lot of them complain, hey, my workplace is a very toxic environment. Yeah. My people manager is so toxic. Everything, everywhere, everything that I do, it's all toxic. So why is that happening, right? So something is wrong somewhere and things can change, right? We can change. If we change for the positive, for the better, you will see your employee start changing. If they don't change, they will exit the company. All right. And I think that kind of churn rate is good because why? You want to retain the good ones in the company itself,
right? Yeah.
To maintain the harmony of the company.
Yeah, get the wrong people off the bus. Get
Exactly.
The right people on the bus.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And I've done it myself, right? I'm not 100% perfect, right? So sometimes when we interview them, you might see them okay, but when they join your workforce and when you assess them during probation period and they are not doing what they're supposed to do, this is where, as a management, it pains us to execute that kind of termination.
Yes.
Right? Because being a people person, where you spend time, effort to develop the person, and it doesn't show the expected result, sometimes that can be what we call demotivating.
You put that so nicely.
Yeah.
Demotivating.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's very, very common because at the end of the day, we are still a human, right? So I accept that part of the deal, and I move on. So each time when I want to get new talent comes in, I will visualize. So in order to tap into the law of attraction, hopefully the right talent comes, right? So if you believe in the law of attraction, then you can apply it and manifest it, and hopefully it helps in your recruitment so that the right talent, the right people will come into your organization. And these are the people that worth your time to invest, to grow, and to bring them to the next level.
Nicely said. Very powerful effect.
Thank you.
You practice a lot of that form of manifestation?
I have my own belief, and I do believe in a certain religion, which I would not share here, but probably that helps me being spiritually groomed.
Yes.
So I apply in my management and business as well.
I've noticed that being out here in Asia now for more than 12 years now, maybe 15 actually. There is a living sense of the sacred and the spiritual. When I grew up in Europe, I honestly didn't believe that people believed in religion as a real thing. Like it was, yes, it's strange to compare that worldview. And I see that spirituality here, if it's practiced in a healthy way, is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
In creating, like you said, a culture of humility in senior management and the wider culture.
That's right.
Of earning that long-term trust because you see somebody as a full human, and you welcome them and you nurture them and grow them.
Yeah.
It's not just your sort of ruthless capitalistic hyper-Western approach, right? There's some real nuance going on here, which is helping to build a culture that unlocks a greater capability. Because you have deeper trust, you're able to communicate more quickly. There's self-starter initiative, people learning how to use the new tools.
That's right.
Probably sharing amongst each other, right? So you're kind of creating an environment in which people are able to be more effective. They can be more authentic.
Yeah.
But it's enabled by this sort of background, caring environment of humble management that still stands by its principles. And when necessary, will swing the sword.
Yeah.
Very decisive has to occur, right?
That's right.
That's and then how do you think an HR practitioner gets to that place? It sounds a bit like a nirvana.
That happens to be my favorite band, by the way.
It's pretty cool band. Yeah.
Well, I can't say.
So that's what inspired you. Just listen to a lot of Nirvana.
Exactly. But I can't say the same for all HR, because every human being, they are individual on their own way, in their own way. So rather than impose, what you can do is to share your principle with them, right? So make them see how strong or how grounded your principles are in your day-to-day life, okay? Even in your day-to-day business affairs.
Yes.
So long as you do it right, I believe 80%, 90% they will look at it and will follow, because you are actually living the path, right? Which they are able to see it, and they are able to taste it, and they are able to follow. If you say one thing, but behind their back you do another thing, this is where it's very dangerous for your people as a people's manager.
Yes.
Okay. And that's how toxicity comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
It's by the mismatch between what you're told and what is done.
What is done. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it builds the poison space.
Yes.
On its own is not poisonous, but over time it gets very toxic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it may be a little bit of that, but the worst part is you will create big rumor out of it. And if you have 30 people, 50 people in your organization, and each of them carry out the rumors, it grows 1,000 times worse.
Right.
And you wouldn't want that, right? So you walked away, you talked away, you walked away, all right? So basically you walk the talk, all that, yeah.
But what I'm taking away from what I think is an important point that you're making was you are walking your talk by being grounded in your principles.
Yeah.
And those principles are profound, probably spiritual, right? From your faith or whatever you connect to, right? But it's a deeper grounding than I just think this.
Yeah.
It's a profound sense of a connection to a greater cosmos.
Exactly.
And that gives you the courage and the strength to stand in your values.
That's right.
Look, this is what I believe in.
Yeah.
These are my principles. And that becomes maybe then a deeper foundation of where leadership comes from.
Yeah.
Because you're building authority and credibility by referencing values.
Correct.
Talking about vision.
Correct.
Right? Enabling and uplifting the human.
That's right.
Versus commanding them into place.
So years of applying that, I find that works for my management. So another thing that I probably would want to share out, hopefully the management out there from different organization or various organization can hear is, if ever you do a mistake, all right, don't be probably call, be humble and just apologize for it. All right, we management, we can also screw up. Yeah, in many ways. All right.
Yeah.
Arising from bad decision making, it happens because we are at the management level. We have to make this sort of decision, right?
Yes.
And sometimes that decisions can be very costly to us. If ever that happens, it's always to be wise or good to be transparent before your people and share what has transpired, what went wrong, and how we can actually improve from there.
Yes.
But if you keep it quiet and you are being not nasty about it, but you are rather arrogant about it, that's where the distrust will start to happen.
Yeah.
All right.
People can sense it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
The vibration's off. Something's not correct.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the more you hide, the greater the erosion of your trust, but from your employees.
And also, I think it becomes helpful to ground oneself. I've been in this situation before. I think we all have, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to counter it inside myself, it's like, well, what kind of man am I claiming to be if I can't just speak the truth of what happened?
Correct.
Can I, is my sense of unworthiness so triggered rampantly that I can't say, hey guys, you know what? I thought I did the right thing. I made a mistake. I apologize.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm doing to fix it. Or
Exactly.
does it, like, as I've also found with my team, it's much more straightforward to, I made a mistake. This was a mistake. And own it and then move on from it, I think.
Yeah.
Because what I think that also believes is one of the deeper research I did is around, it's really what you were speaking to earlier about the resonance you can create with culture when individuals are all on the same frequency.
That's right.
Right. And so if everyone's vibing
The same.
for transparency, right, and we're all being transparent a lot of the time, then there's an implicit sense of trust
That's right.
that's higher than an organization that's not transparent.
That's right.
Your immediate environment.
Correct.
So when a crisis comes in, you can very quickly reply because you have high trust,
That's right.
right? Or if there's some difficult times, you can rely on that as an asset.
That's right.
But it's something that is difficult perhaps because it seems at first ephemeral and you can't touch it. You can't see it, right? You just walk into the office, it looks the same.
Yeah.
But it's the way in which the people are behaving and interacting with each other.
Yeah, because I'm not asking you to share explicit details of whatever that has transpired, but if you're able to be transparent with them, what has happened.
Yes.
I can't reveal much details, but this is actually has happened.
Yes.
And I think your people will value that.
Yes.
Right. And aside from getting trust, you will see that they will put in 200% of their effort to help you out of the mess.
Exactly.
Exactly. Right. So
that's the key point. You can then ask for help.
That's
and then even better, get help.
Exactly. So another key point here is I always believe in open door policy.
Open door policy.
Yeah. So my door is always open. Although, at times I may be busy, but they know that if they just ask for me, and if they know that I'm available, I'm always available to listen to what they have to say. And I think that's important because we do not just want to have a one-way communication from top down, right?
Yes.
I want it both ways. So then you know what is happening on the ground.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
And they're coming to you to tell you about it.
Exactly.
It means that you're being trusted, right? You're being sought as an authority figure who maybe can help resolve it, right? Probably has to be a little bit conscious of what the politics are saying, like,
Yep.
bit of
It does happen.
awareness.
It does happen, right?
Yeah, you've got to be conscious of that.
Yeah.
So what do you think could be a good thing for HR practitioners to look at in the next few months? Because we're seeing so much about AI.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, okay, what's your thing that you think could be useful to focus on now? Could be short term, could be strategic.
Sure.
What do you think is something they should think about seriously?
So I think HR has to be thinking, forward thinking in the sense that you can't do away with this upskilling in regards to AI. You have to implement that.
Yeah.
All right. Whether you implement it now or later, somehow you have to find ways to implement that because the world is catching up with AI. Okay. We are not saying that AI will take over your job, but AI will actually help in your productivity. So you must look at it at that point that how does AI helps me to manage my team effectively or efficiently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There are so many tools now being developed. That becomes a problem for us because we need time to select, to choose which is the proper ones and all that. So I think if you do much research, you should be able to identify the earlier tools that you can adopt first, and then you advance from there later on.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yes.
Makes sense, right? So another thing that we have to look at is, the fact that what is happening in the current economy, the world economy. Okay. Well, you're laughing.
TNT. Yeah.
Yeah. So we cannot deny the fact that we are, for such a time as this, we are in this current economy, and we have to brace what is coming. Yeah? Obviously, if you look, many economists are talking about recession. The whole world economy is upside down and all that. Now, as a HR, you are leading the people, all right? So basically, you need to know how to actually reskill your people in order to brace for this kind of tsunami,
Yes.
right? Economic tsunami.
Yeah.
So you are able to reskill your people or repurpose them, right? And they accept that, and they are able to do so for the next 6 to 1 year, right? 6 months to 1 year. I think you're able to weather the storm in the sense that your company may not lose out, but you're able to go with the flow. So HR actually has a very important role to identify this because they also act as a learning and development manager.
Yes.
All right. So they have to identify what is suitable for the sake or for the survival of the company.
Well said.
Yeah. Because the company survives, the rice bowl of every employee survives. And that is very important because otherwise you will see companies start doing retrenchment, layoff, downsizing, and etc., which we don't want to happen. But if you take one step and tell them, look, this is the direction that the economy is coming. If we reskill our employees to this aspect of productivity and knowledge and skill, we can actually go through the storm and we are able to survive it, maybe even thrive from it. Yeah, so a HR has to be that forward thinking because that strategic thinking doesn't come from management. And I believe HR must always be part of the management, right? Because they are representing the people. Okay, so if they are able to see the contribution, the skills, and what the people can do, and present it to the management, what we call the moving forward plan to survive or even to thrive.
Yeah,
I tell you, the company will even grow to the another level as well. All right.
I think that's really illuminating, right?
Yeah.
That's the call to leadership.
Yeah.
Right. That this is the crisis.
Crisis. Yes.
I think it's real.
Mhm.
Right. I don't think we're going to go back to the way the world was. That's not happening.
Correct.
So it's a real crisis. Never waste a good crisis.
Mm.
So step into it as an HR leader.
Yeah.
Who has a plan for how to move through the storm and actually will harness the power of that storm to come out even stronger and better.
That is correct.
Like upskilling people to AI. And I think also creating a leadership story in the organization of we are on this and we are engaging with this. We're moving forward. Because then that way you have at least the momentum and the narrative is with you.
That's right.
Rather than reacting when it's too late. Well, Lai, this has been an absolutely extraordinary conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Really learned so much. And I hope our viewers take away some deep lessons here.
Yep.
For me, I'm really struck by the language of your heart and the culture you can build by having a powerful heart.
Yeah.
That's caring, that's transparent. Any final thoughts from yourself?
Yeah. To the audience here, do take the moment to ponder what I would say. We only live life once. Yeah. So if you think that investing in people may be a waste of time, you may be wrong because ultimately, we human, we are communal beings, right? So if you don't put effort in developing people, you will not see the progress that you are going to enjoy in the next 5 years. So my final word would be invest in your people. Yeah. Thank you so much. Right.